Hey everybody, today we're talking about the B.P.R.D. Omnibus Volume 4. Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. As always, I'm your host, Frank Casina, and today we're talking about B.P.R.D. once again, Omnibus Volume 4. It's been a while since we read the last one, and this omnibus wraps up the Plague of Frogs volumes of the storyline. And remember, they're collected a little bit out of order. This one collects, if you have the smaller trades, volume 10, 11, and 14. I think one of the ones in between those was, whatchamacallit, like the BPRD 1946 or something like that, 47, 48. There's a couple of those volumes, I believe, in the like numerical order of the thin trades. And then we also had, maybe it was 12 or 13, was like the War on Frogs, that storyline, and that was collected in an earlier volume, maybe 2 or 3 of these omnibuses. So like sequentially it took place back then. So they kind of are telling it in chronological order, which is fine. I'm just letting you know, if you have all the single trades, you're looking at these, that's what's in here. I've never read these books before, and honestly, as of like this volume, and I'm gonna review volume 5 right after this video, I read them both like back to back. I'm enjoying this more than I did the regular Hellboy issues. And you know, Hellboys are over here to my right and your left. And it's interesting that like this is kind of better. I don't know. There's more characters to get involved with. There's, you know, Hellboy was the only singular like recurring character. You have Abe Sapien, you have Liz Sherman, you have Kate, who's like the de facto leader. You have Johan in here, and they're just they're not hilarious. They're all kind of fun and funny. I like how Kate is trying to maintain a relationship with this German dude, you know, this UN like soldier guy throughout this volume 4, and they're kind of tracking down Hellboy to see where he was, and they come across the castle from, I think it was Conqueror Worm, like early on in Hellboy Volume 3. We did a video on it if you want to go watch that. So they're trying to track Hellboy. That's the last place she saw him. But most of Volume 4 is like the wrap up of the Plague of Frogs stuff, and that's pretty awesome. So the first storyline in here I liked a lot, the Warning, and then you have the Black Goddess, and then wraps up with King of Fear. The Warning was pretty cool. You have a lot of action in here. You're dealing with these weird like Hyperborean civilization guys. And Guy Davis on art, man, it's just so rough and so ugly. Like it's not a pretty art style. He's not David Finch. He's not Jim Lee. He's more of like this indie characterization stuff here. But I don't know. The more and more I read it, the more and more I grow to love it. It's kind of like reading Umbrella Academy. Like I was kind of turned off a little bit by that because I'm used to the very pretty, refined comic book art style of the big two. But the more and more I read Umbrella Academy with Gabriel Ba, Fabio Moon, those two guys, I loved it. I love the stylization, and it's the same thing here with Guy Davis. I love the stylization. It's Mignola-esque, but at the same time, it has a nice style of its own. He uses a lot less blacks, so you have a lot more fill-in for the colors and detail, things like that. But you also get some great moments like this with Liz and Abe here, where this is in, I think I don't know, it might be the Warning, but it's not King of Fear, but it's pretty interesting. Like the main battle of the book happens in the middle of this omnibus, which is pretty awesome. And this might be the Black Flame or the Black Goddess or something like that, whatever it's called. Yeah, the Black Goddess. And that's kind of like the finale almost. King of Fear kind of wraps up a little bit, and then you have the Black Flame. Here he is, comes back in a little bit at the bottom here. But like these last 2 volumes in the storyline, the Black Goddess and King of Fear, are really, really awesome. Got some awesome Kevin Nolan covers in here, some artwork there, some dragons. That's kind of cool. Just them battling the frogs and like kind of not really figuring out what's going on, but just kind of, they say they end that threat. And the next volume moves into the next series of like the big things. So if you have the older hardcovers, I don't know if this is Plague of Frogs volume 4 or 5. I'm just letting you know those are what the stories are contained in here. But honestly, this is a lot of fun. I I really think I like this more than the main Hellboy series. And I think that has to do with, like I was trying to say earlier, the recurring characters, the characterization, how you learn a little bit more about each character. They're not as much as mysterious or standoffish. They all want to have a relationship. Johann, throughout this volume, is kind of reeling from the fact that he had this body just in the last omnibus that was kind of destroyed, and he really wants to have like a physical body again. Like, he loved being with women and touching things, and he doesn't really enjoy being his corporeal self here. He's kind of like, you know, against these containment suits. And something I noticed in the next volume, which we'll talk about here, is that there's a distinction between like this containment suit and what he gets in the next omnibus, which I never really realized. I thought it was the way the artist drew it, and not really like a missing lack of features the way that other people did. So it made it like, oh, more conscious of how he was interacting with the world and how he was drawn in previous volumes, in this omnibus and the one beforehand, when you get to the next one. So that's kind of an interesting note here. But just the scale of the destruction going on in this volume is really incredible. And that's one of the things that I really enjoyed when we had volume 3, was it seemed like things tend to ramp up really hard, really fast. And it's the same thing here in volume 4, where you have entire sections of the earth destroyed, leveled, invaded. Just like, you never got the sense that this was going on at the same time when you're reading the Hellboy stuff. And this one like ties into the Hellboy stuff a little bit. You know, obviously the Ogdru Hammer is still like the big bads, but in terms of what's happening on Earth, you don't really know what Hellboy is doing while you're reading this, other than like, oh yeah, he went here one time and he went there one time. But it kind of feels like a misstep that Hellboy is not really reflective of what's going on with the BPRD here in this book, because there's so much awesome big things happening. And you would think, like, if you're wandering around the earth as Hellboy at this time and you notice these massive monsters coming out of the ground, like, wouldn't you want to call back to your buds and be like, hey, are you guys okay? And obviously the thing I took away most from like the first 2 Hellboy films by Guillermo del Toro was the relationship between Hellboy and Liz. And that is completely contrived for the movies. Like, there's no love story here in this book. She is lost. She is like looking for companionship. She's looking for herself. She's not really like in love with Hellboy or Abe. She's just like, I have things going on with me. There's a lot of trauma she's dealing with in the past. And, you know, she's trying to figure it out. She's got these weird powers, and we're trying to understand them. We think they come from the Hyperboreans here. There's this Hyperborean priest on this page. What her true purpose is, or what she's going to do after now she's defeated the frogs, towards the end of this volume, is really interesting. And it picks up a little bit in Omnibus Volume 5. So I'm so surprised that these are better than the main Hellboy book, honestly. And if you told me that, I think I heard it before, on another like overview video when I was starting to get into BPRD or thinking about reading it. But man, like, truly, as of Omnibus Volume 4, this is better than the main Hellboy book. Like, I mean, if you're a fan of Mignola art, yeah, there's only a couple of covers in here that are done by him, but it's written by him. And the characters, I think, are a lot more fun to read than the onesie-twosie stories that you get in the main Hellboy book. So, whole lot of fun. 2 thumbs up on Omnibus Volume 4. This was awesome. Really enjoyed reading it. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know down below in the comments of what you think of BPRD, and I will see you guys next time in the Funny Pages.